Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Investor Podcast. I'm so excited to be back here with you guys. I just flew in from New York last night, had an absolutely amazing just opening trip. While I was there, I was able to connect with one of the Spiritual Investor students who she lives in Vienna, but she was flown over to New York to teach the waltz at a classical music concert in the park in New York. And that was really amazing to hear, basically how this has all changed her life and how it's opened up. And now she's in the newspaper and she's recognized for being just like, a leader in the traditional Austrian waltz. And actually, I'm going to have her on the podcast. So you guys are going to get to hear her story going from beginning scarcity to how she now just blossomed, and she's going to take you through that step by step. So I'm excited about that. But what I'm here to talk to you about today, you guys are on the journey with me and I'm on the journey with you. And that's why this works. We have a co-creation, and what we're doing here is we are constantly moving towards having a less filtered conversation here. And I know that everything starts from within, and so that starts with me. And so I have gone through many of these phases that I've shared a little bit here on the podcast, as much as I thought would be relevant. I share everything pretty much in the mastermind because those guys are very connected to me. That's the workshop type environment where, we're just doing it all together. We're cleaning up their money. They're investing. They're making big life decisions. They're basically orienting themselves within a 12-week period in a way that sets them up for the rest of their life based on their goals. So it's really a great environment, and it brings out a lot in me as well, because honestly, I can't believe what they do in there, and this is getting me to what I'm going to talk about today, which is like when they post in the group or they say on the calls, like that this is literally what they've been looking for their entire life. It's changed them. They've heard it before, but never like this, What's amazing is that I've always been able to make that not about me, but yet I was talking to someone over the weekend, and there was something that they were saying in their life, and I realized that yes, in that moment, I'm able to not make it about me. But what if I didn't have those transformations in the Spiritual Investor, like all the groups, right? What if I didn't have that? Who would I be then? What would I be then? Would I do something different? And so then you can kind of go down these layers, and this is very much a rabbit hole. This is very much what Alan Watt talks about, like climb in the hole and then pull the hole in with you. This is one of those things where we get down to our real, authentic truth. And when we start going there, there's a part of us that gets like, you could feel a little bit of fear, you could feel a little anxiety, you could go, oh my gosh, well, then my life doesn't work if I don't have this version of basically ego. And then you go, well, that's where we learn too, because we learn in the contrast, which is ego. So then great to have it, right? But then what we want is we want this peace and freedom, and we want our whole life to be like walking in the middle of a beautiful field of green and flowers. And so there's this stark dichotomy going on with how do we be socially conscious, yet not care to the point where we're like still free, but we're still going out and doing good things in the world, and we still need to make money from it. And we want to make sure that we're not like needing validation and all of this stuff. And I really feel like we're going through, I'm going to say phases, but really what it feels like to me is it's just like it always is. Like we live life in parallel. And so what we're doing is we're drawing down the energy from whatever parallel reality we're choosing at the time. For me right now, I went to a very deep level over the weekend in New York. And what it feels like to me is that I'm getting up and I'm sitting on another chair at the same table. You've probably heard me say that before. And I think each of you, if you're listening to this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And you're going to a next level too. And then in order to stay in that level, which is basically, we're just talking about the frequency, in order to stay in that, you have to learn how to live in it without questioning it to death, without pulling back, without trying to compare it, without trying to even be too happy about it. That's the thing. When we start to get, like people say, in our bliss, which, I'm going to talk about some of this spiritual jargon here that I think almost leads us astray. Stay in your bliss. Well, you do that, and then there's a craving that's there. There's a needing to do if you want to stay anywhere, right? You hear like a lot of people are either going through or just went through, a bit of a dark night of the soul kind of thing. And, it's difficult to not believe, okay, well, what are we doing wrong during this point? But the thing is, every time we get out of it, we're like, oh shit, that was the best thing that could have happened. But yet we forget again. So what we're doing is we're waking up and we're going to sleep. And we're waking up and we're going to sleep. And we have all these inputs that are coming in, social media, you've got the podcast, you've got the programs, you've got all this. And I think as we begin to expand, we are going to get more of an appreciation of how valuable our energetic currency is. And that has nothing to do with your worthiness or anything like that. I'm going to talk about that. But how valuable your energetic currency is, to the point that you're always setting yourself up energetically in order to receive. See, that's the problem. What we do is we say, oh, I don't receive. I don't have all the money that I want. Well, it's not, the money's already there. You desire it, so it's already here. The problem is you haven't set yourself up to receive, because you're making a direct connection between what it looks like to receive that money and actually receive that money. But money is energy. And so you don't get to say that. And so getting off of it, letting go of control, is the way that you receive. But how do you do this and stay and exist in the world? So let's kind of go a level deeper, because this is really what I wanted to talk about. So I have had this feeling for a while. Like, it's hard to even decipher, like when we say, 6 months or 2 years or whatever. Like, first of all, who cares? Second of all, there's no linear time. It's like, it's a concept. Whatever parallel reality I've just pulled from has, on that parallel reality, given me the input of what that timeline was. So I'll just say, I have wondered about this for a while. The entire spiritual community, and I know that sounds severe. I don't like to use words like entire and all and always and all that. I try not to, because there's like this incorrectness in it. But I mean, seriously, we're close to it. The entire spiritual community has been talking about this: speaking my truth, being my authentic self, feeling my worthiness, choosing me, blah, blah, blah. And I think that is the phase that we needed to be in, and maybe perhaps still need to be in. When we are able to do that, what that does is that files us the contrast that we need when we're not doing that. And then what it does is it gets us out of the part of life that's not working, at least as much as we can interpret it. Now, when we feel good, we think that we're moving forward, and so we interpret that. And then what happens is that's good, because when we feel good, there's an opening for more. But that opening for more, that more that's coming in, is not actually what you think it is. Like, I'll give you an example. So when you're in you could talk, let's just talk about money. So you want money to come in. Money is actually coming in. You're just not noticing it in those spaces because you're expecting money to come in a certain way. So you're so focused on that. So you're happy and you're open and you're feeling ease about money, but you're not noticing the ways that it already is coming in. So you're never in reconciliation with that, which is the opening to money, right? Money neutrality. So you're feeling good and the money's there, and then you're like, why is the money not coming? It's because you're not in money neutrality, because you're not appreciating the things that are there, and you're not in reconciliation with them because you cannot see them, because your ego is so focused on this other way that money is going to come in, right? So now let's think about that. So it's sort of like, okay, got that concept. Now I really want you to think about this whole being me concept. So when people say, I'm showing up authentically, I'm being me, well, when they're showing up and they're choosing themselves and they're feeling worthy and they're charging more for their products and they are coaching someone and feeling great about it, and just like I said for the mastermind, like sometimes people are so overboard about what's changed in their life with the mastermind, I can actually feel the energy in my body. I sometimes have to shut it down and go do something else. It's strong. So here's what we're doing. We're regulators, right? So what we're doing is we're showing up and we're saying, okay, I'm being me. I'm authentically being me. But you know what? That is actually another version of ego. Because if you're being you, then that is just another filter that you're being. You're not actually being you unless you're just being here. And if you're being here, you wouldn't need to be you. So for example, you talk about relationships. There are people who want certain things in a relationship. They say, I need attention in a relationship, or I need affection. I need my partner to be, more affectionate with me. I'm being me because that's the way I grew up. That's the way that I like my life. That's what makes my life work, is when I have a partner who is very affectionate. And I can go out and do great things in the world if I have that. And I don't need other things, like I'm happy to da-da-da, but I need that, right? So what we do is we start to justify it, and we go, well, I just need this one thing, but then I'll be good for all the other stuff, right? Or we'll say like 2 or 3 things, right? It's no different than if you said 950 things. It's still a layer that is not really you. And so you're not really being me, quote unquote, which is the real version of you, unless you're okay being in that situation without needing the affection. Because you're not really being you until you need nothing. And then what happens is you need nothing, and then there is a drawing in effect that happens that gives you your desire. And if it doesn't give you your desire, because you don't need anything from that relationship, it's no different for you to be with that person or be with another person until you start to get in your head and you go, but wait, I'm married. But wait, I have kids. But wait, I have da-da-da-da-da-da, right? You're just drawing from another parallel. But if you were truly being you, you would never need to show up as your authentic version, because your authentic version as you know it is still your ego. And going back to how I started this, how do you exist in the world? How do you make money? How do you do all of this stuff? Well, we've been tapping into this for a long time. I just don't think that we've actually brought these concepts together. The whole conversation around vulnerability, I think, really did a deep dive into this, because vulnerability is directly connected to the ego not being present in the space. Because vulnerability is you removing something that you're trying to silently defend. And you may just be going right into ego that next moment, and that next moment, and that next moment. But what you've done is you've I call it breaking the structure. And it's one of the 5 pillars that I teach inside of the spiritual investor that basically gets you from where you are now with your circumstances to completely using energy when it comes to money, and then increasing your income and using a percentage of that to expand through investing. It's like, how do we invite the money in by setting ourselves up? And the win-win about this is that you are expanding into your greatness and your higher consciousness at the same time. And so this is another thing that I see, because sometimes I'll see some of the students on social media and their content's changing after the spiritual investor. And I think that's great. I'm not saying it's changing okay, they're taking this or taking that. No, whatever resonates. And if you can be more open for your audience, that's what I'm talking about. That's the money conduit, right? That's the calling in. And that's what you're looking for, because that's the only space of effortless. If it's not an invite, it's not effortless. I don't care what kind of system you put behind it. It's eventually going to approach the limit. In calculus, they talk about you don't actually go to zero, you approach the limit of zero. And so effortless is the same way. You're constantly approaching it. And you're not trying to have zero effort, because zero effort honestly would just be when you're in meditation. And that's just full source. You could do that if you wanted to go and just, hang out and sit in a cave. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to diminish the gap between how we're operating in the world and between what we're calling in, because our desire is the energy that's calling it in. And our ego is fooling us into believing that we are good spiritual people out here doing amazing things. And we are, but if we say we are, then that's ego. If I need to tell you I'm a good person, then that's my ego, because you're going to feel that I'm a good person, right? We were walking home from the restaurant in New York with Aga is her name, the spiritual investor student. And I suddenly realized how, and she had said this before, but I really didn't receive it until we were 20 minutes into the walk home. And this is at 11:30 at night. I really didn't realize how buzzy and honored she felt that she was talking to me and met me in person. And I'll hear this sometimes, I'll go to conferences and stuff, and they're like, oh my gosh, I met you in person. Oh my gosh. Or I want to meet you in person, or something like that. It's kind of a weird phenomenon, because I'm like, well, what's the difference? I feel very connected to you here, but yet I've had people ask for several years to do a private event. So it's that's something that my ego has been blocking that to a certain degree. And we don't even have to go into why, because I think that there's lots of different facets of that. Part of it is my team is always doing other things. And I'm well, do we have time? And do we have blah, blah, blah? I go into this stuff too. I block money too. I block abundance. If I didn't notice until halfway through the walk that she was feeling that strongly, then we're all doing it, right? And I don't think that this is one of these things where we're supposed to go, okay, I'm just not going to have that part of my ego, or I'm not, I think moving towards and being awake isn't getting rid of anything. It's noticing it's there and not it not being you, not getting entangled with it. So here's where I want to sort of wrap this up, because this is the whole point of this, is that I'm inviting myself and I'm inviting you to really look at what is this? I'm being my authentic self. I'm finally saying what I want, because that's what I heard from someone who's really close to me over the weekend. I'm finally saying what I want. Well, if you're saying what you want and you're with someone and that's not what they want, then you're not really being you as your soul level. Because at your soul level, you would not need that thing. And when you don't need that thing, it works for everybody, right? It works for both people standing there. Because if you don't need it and you're able to give it, and then that person either doesn't need it anymore because they're like, oh, good. Like, when I was walking with Aga and I'm like, I didn't need that. After I realized it, I was like, wow, this is wonderful. And then it's like, okay, that's gone. Now you're on to the next thing, right? So it's like these little lights that come up in your life. But I haven't even thought about it until I just brought it up as an example to talk about you, right? So it's like I'm going out there, I'm utilizing these things, and it is a momentary connection with ego, right? It's almost like the utilization of it in order to exist in the world. But then there is the not entanglement of it, right? And so people needing their authentic truth to be fulfilled is our new spiritual way of justifying our ego. I'm just going to say it. And I'm not saying it to you, I'm saying it to me. And I've been watching this too. I have a friend of mine who dates a lot. And she's constantly just, sitting at dinner and just looking for the thing that doesn't work, right? But she's speaking her truth and she's saying, oh, this doesn't work for me. This doesn't work for me. Because she's felt suppressed her whole life. So now she's like, oh no, I don't like that. Oh no, I don't like that. It's just, all we're doing is just reinforcing. So it doesn't matter how wonderful and politically correct and socially conscious, whatever it is you're doing, go do it, live into it, love it, but recognize to a certain degree, you're still reliving the past. Until you actually can stand there. And I think this is what Mother Teresa was trying to say. Like, she would not fight against anything, but she would bring her presence because she was the light. But you can't be the fucking light if you're sitting there going, this is my authentic truth. This is what I need. I'm not saying that you don't have any needs in the world, but when you do have a need, recognize that it still is ego. And I think if you can do that, you and I both here, then that's not us anymore. And the person who is recognizing it is us. And the real us can see also how much we really don't need it. And then we get to choose unconditional love, which would be either stay within just where we are, or give that person what they need. It's an offering. It's like, you go and like Jesus with the wine and the bread. That's unconditional love. But we're under this illusion that unconditional love is all about just living our authentic truth. Our authentic truth is the path to get to where we want to go. But it is definitely not the destination. It's just a path that feels more powerful for right now. And what's so exciting about this is, holy shit, look at what is waiting for us on the other side. Like, if we think this is good, holy shit. Yeah. So, get yourself in a structure where you can just be this for a while, where you can just notice and you can just be in a calm. That's the thing. Like, this stuff comes through when you're open. That's why money comes to you when you're at ease. And so see it as your responsibility, whether you join my mastermind, which is open for enrollment now. We have actually 2 sessions coming up, so you can choose your time, choose when you want to start. You can also, we have 2 calls a week. You can choose those. It's honestly, there's nothing out there like it. And we are going to raise the price after these 2. So if you want to get in it, I do allow people to even continue. I've got a lot of people who they want to keep being in the energy of it. And I give you a severely discounted rate once you're already in the door. So go to thespiritualinvestor.com and look at that. Or someone else. It likely needs to be very different than whatever you're doing now, because if there's not a breaking of the structure, if there's not something to scramble the way that you're thinking now, then your ego kind of fits itself into this. It's almost like a framework. I picture it as being like a steel building and it having like steel. It has no walls. It's just steel, and I'm walking into it, and it's got like poles that are crisscrossing and everything. And so every time you walk forward, you're kind of running into another version of your ego. And when we feel good and we start to see things happen around us, we're connecting that we're moving forward. But then we're just going to run into another pole and another pole and another pole. There is a life out there, and this is what I'm going for. There is a life out there where you're walking through that building, but you see the pole in front of you. And then you're able to dip and go around the pole. You see it. And if you see it, then you don't really need the lesson. But you have to break the structure of your life first in order to be in that situation. And I'm not saying that you throw your life into chaos. No, actually breaking the structure as I teach it in The Spiritual Investor is what you're doing, is you're voluntarily going beyond you're going beyond your thinking as it is now. So I take you to that outside edge. And then what I do is I support you and guide you for you to take action steps. And then once you do, you meet that version of you and you go, oh, wait, she did that. And then from there we go, okay, what's your next action step? To the point where at some point within the 12-week time, and this usually happens around week 3 actually, is you start to not recognize your old self anymore. And when you don't recognize your old self anymore, then those stories that you've been filtering to yourself about lack and scarcity and all this, they don't fit anymore, because the new version of you doesn't actually have access to those. So instead of getting rid of all that, like releasing, getting rid of your money conditioning, I don't teach any of that. I don't teach you how to get rid of your money conditioning, because that is the long path. What I teach you is I teach you how to, as an expression of the new version of you, not have access to those old stories. And you could say they don't have access to you. And that would mean that your ego doesn't have access to you. And that would mean that's what I'm talking about with dipping under that pole. So thank you for being here with me, for sticking with me on this. We have so many beautiful, wonderful conversations to have. The Spiritual Investor is expanding. I mean, my life is expanding. And it's all us doing this together. So I'm just in such gratitude and appreciation for you. All right. I'll see you next week.